Our featured guest today represents a truly innovative program in Mesa court system. It's called the Veterans Court. The program is being designed to assist veterans in the court system. Please welcome Judge Richard Romley. Good to have you here, sir.
How are you, Mark?
Good, I'm good. Welcome to Mesa Morning Live. This has got to be a
They left the shirt as an incentive to lose a little bit of weight from the cruise, so.
Yeah. Well, we're out of time, Rick. Yeah, that is a great shirt. If it fit me, that would be awesome. But you know what? I think this would be a great gift for you.
Oh, okay. I got to take a class again.
Yeah, there you go.
Back to school. Thank you.
Wear that under your robe.
There you go. Next time you see me on the bench, hopefully not as a defendant.
Yeah, I was going to say. I get a little nervous when people talk about court. A whole nother story. Well, welcome. Good to be here.
It's great to be here.
Tell us about Veterans Court. I got to be honest, I don't know. Is it anything like People's Court?
No, not quite at all.
Okay.
It's not quite as exciting in the sense of what People's Court would probably be. You know, Veterans Court, quite frankly, Mesa is a real leader in the nation. They've had a Veterans Court now for a number of years. And the idea is to, if a veteran commits some type of a criminal offense, usually your lower level offenses, we bring them into a Veterans Court, a specialty court that allows individuals to meet with them. For example, we have VA representatives there. We have mentors. We have community outreach programs, nonprofits that also help them. But we try to identify what the issue is that led them to coming into court. And thus we try to, as part of the program of going through the court system, that they then get services through the VA or through the community, however it may be. You know, it's a real maze. You know, most veterans, when they come back, they just don't know where to turn, how to even enroll in the VA to get services that they may need, whether it's for their PTSD, anger management, if there's a substance abuse issue, whatever. And we tie them into the veterans community, the veterans hospital primarily. We get them the services, and then the prosecutor takes that into account as to how we dispose of that case. And if they're successful, it's usually a much better disposition in the matter. And the whole goal has been to, you know, just change the behavior, to give them some of the resources that are needed to change that behavior and get them to be productive and get them through this difficult time.
That's great. Now, give us a little background on you and your history. I know that you served. You're a veteran. Tell us a little bit about it.
You know, I was honored to serve with the United States Marine Corps. I was in Vietnam. I was infantry. And I was there in 68, 69, in which I was wounded. I was quite seriously wounded in April, in the hospital for a year. And I understand the struggles when you come back. You know, if I could digress a little bit, Absolutely. You know, why I'm so enthused with what is going on, and sort of a progression of how I've seen the veterans' issues being addressed. You know, Vietnam, it was a time in which we were a divided nation. I mean, we truly were. There was anger. There was, you know, a lack of clarity as to why we were there. And quite frankly, the nation did not respect and honor the veterans that were coming home. And I saw what that did. It was difficult. But I think that our nation has learned from that. And what we've learned is that, you know, regardless of your thoughts on the war, direct that to the congressional offices and to the presidents as to whether we should be in a war. But the veterans that serve deserve the honor and the respect and the help that may be needed for having served. I mean, today we're seeing 20 suicides per day of veterans. 20 suicides a day. And, but from learning from that, you know, we've decided to reach out and to provide the services to the veterans. But what I've really learned is that, look, we have a VA system that is really trying to help the veteran. They're trying to improve, whether it's the hospital or the benefit side. But the truth of the matter is, it takes a full community to come together to work with that veteran. You know, Veterans Court, although we have the VA hospital that's engaged with us, We have mentors. We have nonprofits that are there to help find jobs, give assistance in getting them to court, because sometimes travel's a difficulty. And I think that we've grown as a nation, and I think that that's a good sign. And I'm honored to continue on with my career of being a judge for Veterans Court. I served as Maricopa County Attorney. Most probably remember that for, 18 years. And, veterans, they believe in that concept of service above self. So we deserve to help them as best as we can.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service in the Marines, and thank you for your continued service to our country. So
thank you.
Appreciate that. So maybe we've got plenty of time. Maybe you could give us some examples of how your court has helped veterans. Maybe a couple of cases. I don't know what
Sure.
you divulge.
Tragically, sometimes you see some very, very difficult cases, and the ones that really are very problematic are those suffering from some type of mental problem, PTSD, or just difficulty of readjusting back into the community. And that requires a variety of services to come to help that individuals, whether it's a mentor, which is usually a veteran, because veterans talk to veterans. It's sometimes difficult to get them to open up. The VA to get them the counseling, the treatment, medications if necessary to help them. Nonprofits to help them, if they're homeless, to get off the street, to provide transportation, to just help them quite a bit. And an example that I think is an extraordinary story is I had a gentleman that had been going through the Veterans Court for some time. And quite frankly, we call it graduation. When they have completed all that is required of the court, we graduate them. And this individual came up and, he said, "Judge, I can't tell you how this has helped me continue on in a manner that has, turned my life around." He said, "Do not discharge me yet. Do not graduate me. Do not get this case over with yet, because it's giving me that incentive that I've got to do it." Military people, they understand orders. They understand sometimes there's that necessary, you shall do this. And this individual needed the Veterans Court to keep pushing him to get his counseling, to stay on his medication, and so forth. So here's a guy that we were ready to discharge. Basically get rid of the case. He successfully completed it, but he asked to stay on. And you know what? He's turned his life around. He's a productive individual. And that's an extraordinary case. That's one that it touches you. I'm the former county attorney, guys. Everybody thought I was really hard-nosed. But those things touch your heart, and that's good. That's good. We need to remember that if we can turn people around, it'll be better for society as a whole. And I can't thank, from what I'm hearing, the resource center being placed in Mesa. It just shows the leadership in Mesa. To have kind of a one-stop shopping, veterans don't know where to go, what to do. Coming into the court, we guide them. But what if you haven't committed a crime? Where do you go? It's a maze out there. I've been out. I've been wounded since almost 50 years now. I still don't understand it after that long. It's a tough thing. So this resource center is going to be, I think, a real leader, and you'll see more of this throughout the country.
Well, before the show, we mentioned, I know you're not a Mesa resident.
No.
But you were effusive in your praise of Mesa and the great things they're doing for veterans.
I can't tell you how excited I am to see what's going on in Mesa. Whether it was the Veterans Court, which was one of the first to be out there, to now the Resource Center, to the nonprofits that engage, and want to do something. Mesa cares for its veterans. And, I know that we always talk about, the mayor and the council, and they deserve a tremendous amount of praise. But quite frankly, everybody in this audience deserves that, plus many more. It takes a community, quite frankly, to address this issue. It's complex and it's difficult, and it's not Vietnam again, trust me, yeah.
Well, I'm sure that, I mean, you'd love it if your job wasn't necessary.
Oh, absolutely.
But unfortunately, that's just not reality. What can these folks do here if they know a veteran? We all know veterans, either recently returning or, like you said, 50 years. What can these folks do to kind of help the system?
You know, first of all, if you're a veteran, we always look for mentors. Mentors are a critical component to the Veterans Court. You know, I'm probably going to be speaking out of turn here, though. But, you know, when Veterans Court is going on, we always have veteran representatives there inside of the courtroom to meet with veterans, to help sign them up for eligibility, those types of things. We have a number of individuals that help guide them through the system. Look you've got the Resource Center, but if it's necessary, bring them into court, even if there's not a charge against them. You know, sit there and say, there's people here that can help guide you. And they're wonderful. Those veterans representatives can sit there and help guide them and say, look, here's what we'll do for you, and begin to start the process up. But get engaged. I mean, help the nonprofits. If you see a veteran that's in distress, contact somebody. Help that individual.
That's great. Where is the physical Veterans Court?
It's in the court. It's I'm Scottsdale, so I know how to drive there, but I think it's Mesa City Court, but I don't know something on First Avenue and.
Okay.
Right.
That's great. Well, I'm sure we have a couple of questions in the audience, and I know that you're open to if anybody, raise your hand. Bob will run a mic to you. If you've got a question for Mr. Romley.
Does it just draw from Mesa veterans, or is it around the valley?
It is only Mesa. It is only, the question was, is it only Mesa veterans that Mesa City Court serves? And it is. But the Veterans Court is growing nationally. I mean, Phoenix has one. Glendale has been talking about one. Tempe has one. Chandler has one. So Veterans Court is beginning to be understood as a real success. Recidivism is much lower than going through a regular court system. We don't see them coming back, and that's a sign of success. But it's only for Mesa veterans at this time. But if something occurs in Phoenix, they now have a Veterans Court. Scottsdale has a Veterans Court. Tempe now has one. Gilbert has one, that's correct. Gilbert has one. So it is growing. The challenge, if I could.
Absolutely.
And Senator Flake came out and watched the Veterans Court the other day. And I've got to give him a lot of credit because he focused upon what's the number one thing that is needed right now. You've got to understand that the Veterans Court provides things that the normal city courts don't provide, and that is a variety of services for that veteran, whether it's mental health help, drug abuse, anger management. I mean, we can go on down the line. That puts a real strain on the VA, and quite frankly, the biggest challenge we have right now is what we call VJOs, Veterans Justice Outreach individuals. Those are people that work for the VA. They are in court every single time court is held. And we put the veteran in touch with them. If they're not signed up for the VA, we sign them up right there. You know, those types of things. But we have, as you can imagine, with all the courts that are beginning to grow, we don't have enough of those veterans outreach coordinators to cover every court. So Senator Flake is going to be introducing a bill for 50 more of these individuals. And that's great because I think that cities, you know, leadership in those cities are beginning to recognize Veterans Court is a success and that they deserve this opportunity, help to turn their life around. But that requires more resources from the VA, and that's always a challenge. But Senator Flake is going to be doing it, so I commend him. And You know, I know Andy, he's reached out to me on veterans issues. Andy Biggs, I'm sorry, Councilman, or Representative Biggs. Very supportive. You've got great leadership here.
How long's Mesa Veterans Court been in existence?
A little over 2 years.
Okay, so
So we have a bit of a track record, and we're beginning to see the successes, and we can determine the recidivism and are they coming back into this system. Challenges, though, still exist. Homelessness is difficult to get them. You know, we try to get them jobs, but it's not just finding them housing. There's other psychological issues that are tied there as to why they are homeless, to get them want to become productive individuals. And that's why this collective offering of services in this community, in the VA, is why I think it's so successful, because, you know, we try to identify, you know, you're not just homeless. You know, you got a drug issue here. You know what? You know, you've had some issues because you're back and you've got anger management and you can't hold down a job. So we try to address all of those different types of things. And it's not through just the VA, but it's through the nonprofits. And I think that's why it's a success. It's not a simple cookie cutter.
Sure. We've got time for another question. If anybody's going to raise your hand, we'll get a microphone to you. Otherwise, only a couple of years, you've come a long way.
Oh.
Where would you like to see the Veterans Court a couple of years from now, down the road?
I would like to see it available in literally all of the different jurisdictions, all the different cities offering it. I think that, that's a challenge, because you need the VA to expand their capabilities. You need the cities to understand that that's really necessary and to grow their courts. But if you do that, then the veterans, if it's a low-level offense. I mean, some offenses are just not appropriate for veterans court. I mean, if you commit a murder, you're not eligible for veterans court. But I think that we need to be going in that direction, to making this available to all veterans, not just because you're lucky to live in Mesa. You know, that's just short-sighted. And I think that because of the success we've seen, I think it will go there.
That's great. Last call for, question in the very back, Mike Serto.
If a veteran wants to volunteer, what are the steps that veteran goes through to come into your program? And is there training? What's the time commitment? And who do they contact to be a part of Veterans Court?
For Mesa, I would contact the Mesa City Court themselves. We have mentors that are trained, and we put them in touch with the mentors themselves. And they go through a certain fundamental training, as well as a screening of the veteran. You know, we do need to do that because we need to make sure it's the right fit here. And then they assign them to the courts when they come in, and to certain veterans. But just contact Mesa City Court, and we'll guide you to the mentoring program that we have, and they'll be the ones that basically would run them through the steps that are necessary to be a mentor.
Good. Are you on the bench today?
No.
You got the day off?
Luckily, you know, it's so you know, can't rule from this place. That's for damn sure. But for sure, excuse me. I am no longer elected. I mean,
You know, I don't know how they talk in Scottsdale, but here we try and keep it clean. And
I know. I know Mesa. I know Mesa. Yeah, absolutely. So.
That's awesome.
You know, and they say, you know, the Commandant came out several years ago. You know, we used to be, you're never an ex-Marine. That's what it used to be. So we used to call ourselves former Marines. Well, the Commandant a few years ago says, well, you're always a Marine. So you know how Marines talk. So I apologize. Excuse me, audience. So
you have carte blanche for having. And I know you know a lot about the law. That's been your life.
That's my life.
But I don't know if you do know this. There's a law that they're going to start cracking down on, especially in Scottsdale. What kind of car do you drive? Is it ever dirty?
Yes, it is right now.
Well, we have the solution for that. As our special guest, we'd like to thank you by offering you. This is from our good folks at Cobblestone Auto Spa. They're all over the valley.
I know where they are.
They're just, you know, here's what happens. You're driving along somewhere in the valley, and you see an empty corner, and about a week later you drive by, boom, there's a cobblestone there. These guys are good. So they would like to give you a $100 detail gift card, and you can use it at any cobblestone in the valley, and clean up your wheels, man.
I appreciate that. That will be used. Trust me.
Well,
maybe I'll give it to a veteran now through that successful in court.
I don't know if you heard what he said. Maybe he'll give it to a veteran.
That's successful in court. He's got to succeed. He or she. We see a lot of women veterans right now. We're seeing a lot of women veterans. And quite frankly, the services at the VA hospital, the fastest growing part of the population at the VA hospital is women veterans. And that's a challenge for us. It's something that we have not dealt with in the past, and we must focus on that. And, you know, there's some unique challenges there, some real unique challenges.
Well,
so
that's
if they
great.
lose their child, you know, they've been deployed and they come back, and, you know, we try to work with them to make sure that they.
Well, we thank you again for your service, not only active duty, but you're still active duty.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. How about a big round of applause for Mr. Rick Romley? Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure.
It was great, Mark.
Thank you very much.